And we're live at Legacy Farms Coffee Podcast.
Hey guys, I'm Ashley Williams with Legacy Farms Coffee,
This is Eli.
and we are Ashley and Eli. We do coffee talk or coffee chat, or we call it a lot of different things. This is the first podcast of the 2025.
Yeah, season 3.
And yeah, so we're just I forget what date we actually started, so I just put season 3. Be a good place to start. So we're planning on doing 52 podcast minimum this year, and get a little better about doing them every Tuesday night at 7:30. That'll be it'll be a little different podcast for the next couple months because we're probably going to be harvesting coffee. We usually harvest coffee. I leave the house about 4, leave the farm about 4:45, and then I'm running around all day during harvest, and I usually go to bed around 9:30 or 10. That's usually when I've got everybody home, those kinds of things. But the quick housekeeping stuff, I am the head roaster. My son Jonathan roasts for us every once in a while. Eli's been training on the roaster. So that's who gets you your coffee most of the time. We have 2 coffee farms in Honduras. There's Finca Williams and Finca Juancito. All of our coffee is sold under the Legacy Farms Coffee name brand. So a lot of the people here tonight are roasters, home roasters, big roasters. So if you'll see a lot of questions, some of them are going to be about green coffee. And then if you guys are watching, we sent out an email tonight to a lot of our roasted coffee customers. So there's probably going to be a lot of people online that are new to the coffee world. So one of the things that we've had a lot of questions about is flavored coffee. One of the most expensive coffees we have online is my yellow bourbon, and one that's called our full natural, which is called the fruit bomb. I had somebody order today, and I hope you're not watching, but because I was going to send you an email, but they ordered caramel rum crunch and the yellow bourbon. So that's 2 sort of completely different types of coffee. So I thought tonight we would cover something about flavored coffee versus coffee flavors. And so and also I was at a customer that buys a lot of green coffee from me the other day, and somebody came in and bought a couple of bags of Jamaica Me Crazy, which is a flavored coffee, and they bought a French press. Flavored coffee, we'll get into it a little deeper, but the French press is made to bring out those natural flavors. Pretty much any way you process a flavored coffee like Jamaica Me Crazy, it's going to taste like Jamaica Me Crazy. And I'm not 100% sure what that tastes like. Should pick it up. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. I had it on the wrong Wi-Fi. We have a total of 4 Wi-Fis here on the property. So we were on the one from when I was in the house just a few minutes ago. But anyway, Eli was sticking his head in. He's got a lot of followers. And so he was going to just wanted to say hi to everybody. He's helping me get things ready to go to Honduras. So I'll be leaving on Wednesday and should be on the farm by Wednesday night, barring the weather. We keep getting notices we're going to have some bad weather today and Sunday, or tomorrow and Sunday. So we're hoping that we're able to do our martial arts tomorrow and get home and tucked in before the weather hits. But anyway, you got anything else to say?
Not really, no.
Okay. All right. Well, Eli's going to leave us, and then I've got a couple people that are clicking to come online. So we're going to get those on screen. And
Order Eli Mountain Blend.
he said, order Eli Mountain Blend. That's his coffee. I am having a lot of trouble tonight with my getting my camera just like I want it. All right. I'm going to pick up some guests that are on. All right. So maybe they're not still waiting. All right. I put add to stage. So um, a couple of people, I think they didn't realize that clicking on, they clicked the wrong button and they ended up getting on screen. I'm happy to talk to anybody. You don't have to be a coffee professional. If you want to get on the screen with us tonight, you go right ahead. But there are no stupid questions in coffee. When I literally bought my first coffee farm and I did not drink coffee. So there's no question that you can ask tonight that I knew when I first bought my coffee question or my first coffee farm. So it's Mr. Richard's on. It's been a while since I've been on, Mr. Richard. And I'm also on Lexi Farms Coffee. So if you guys got comments, I think you can shoot them straight to that. We should be streaming live on that. We shall see. All right. Well, I don't think Mr. Richard's gonna join us tonight, but we've got a lot of people on already watching. If you guys have any questions at all, just hit them in the comments, and I'll ask them the best I answer them the best I can. Like I was saying when I started the show, one of our two of our highest priced coffees are the Yellow Bourbon, which is spelled like bourbon. And a lot of people are confusing that one with the whiskey aged coffee, and that's not what it is. The second thing is today somebody ordered the caramel rum crunch, which is a base coffee, a regular old coffee that we add flavoring to. So we take a coffee that cupped 80 points, and then we make that coffee. We add the flavoring to that coffee, and so that makes it taste pretty much like however we want to make it taste. And so they ordered the Yellow Bourbon, which is a very high-end coffee, and they ordered the Caramel Rum Crunch, which is a flavored coffee. So that's sort of two different ends of the spectrum as far as coffee quality goes. So I'm going to send them an email and make sure that's what they meant to order, and make sure they know the difference. But we were talking about coffee flavors versus flavored coffee. So 80 points is the lowest end of the specialty coffee spectrum. Coffee is sent off and judged by a professional Q grader, and that guy gives us the flavors that he perceives, that he tastes in the coffee. He'll make those notes. Any dominant aromas that are coming from the coffee, he makes a note from that, and he will give us a score from 1 to 100. Most all of our coffees are in the 80 to 89 range. Anything once it starts getting into those 90s, they're very expensive. I went to cupping school back years ago, and there was a guy there that had a 95 point coffee, and I think it was selling for like I think it was $88 a pound. I'm not sure why my screen keeps cutting off on my side, but then the next year he got a 96, and this was in the best of Panama or something like that. The coffee with that 1 point jump from 95 to 96, or it was either 96 to 97, it jumped up to like $120 a pound. It was just massive amount of coffee. When you roast a pound of coffee, you're probably going to get about 15 ounces of coffee out of it. That's going to be a really expensive coffee. It's going to be a coffee that's more expensive than what I would enjoy drinking. It's I wouldn't enjoy it if I had that. I don't like lattes and things like that, just from the fact that I don't want to pay that much money for a cup of coffee. So I tend to drink just regular old coffee. Our customer base is in that mid 80s range, and so that makes a really great cup of coffee. But I've been having a lot of trouble with StreamYard, and for whatever reason, my screen keeps going blank. I'm not sure if it goes blank on y'all's side or not. Sorry about that. So when we have our coffee judged, the lower end coffees, of course, the higher the cupping score, the more that the coffee is worth. And so we take those lower scores, which is still in the specialty range. We take those lower scored coffees. Those are the ones that we use to flavor. This year, we actually had a coffee that was a 79, which was outside of the specialty range. So currently, that's what we're using, but that's still in the good range. It's just not specialty. So we take that coffee, and that's the one we add the flavors to. And so we have caramel rum crunch, Jamaica Me Crazy, Southern Pecan. There's one called Rum Popo. There's salted caramel. Of course, we do pumpkin spice during pumpkin spice season. And so that's where your coffee comes from. A lot of companies that I know buy a Brazilian coffee that's in the like 72 to 74 range, which just makes sense because you're adding the flavor to it. So if I took an 89 point coffee and a 79 point coffee and I flavor them into the Jamaica Me Crazy, they're both going to taste virtually the same. But when you look at on our website, legacyfarmscoffee.com, so when you're looking at El Gringo, it's going to say chocolate with caramel notes. If you put that into a Mr. Coffee, you're going to taste less of that. If you add sugar and creamer, you're going to taste almost none of that. It's going to taste like your sugar and your creamer. So the French press, the V60s, I have a Clever Brewer. I have an AeroPress, an espresso machine. All of those things are made so that my coffee pot brings the water to exactly 195 degrees. So at 195 degrees, I'm going to put it into my V60 by Hario and brew it, steep it for 2 minutes. So my formula is 30 grams of coffee. I'm going to put about 50 to 70 milliliters of water or grams of water in there. I'm going to let the coffee steep or bloom for a minute, and then I'll finish pouring that out to a total of 450 grams or milliliters of water added into it. And that's what that will be my pour over. So that's my standard brew. Bigger coffee, I do 40 grams of coffee to 600 of water. And so that's a 15-to-1 ratio. And if you start looking things up on YouTube and on the internet, they're going to give you a lot of the same results like what you just saw. Okay, Trace Murray has a question. All right, gave me 3 questions. That keeps me busy. We used to be certified organic, but the standards for getting certified organic in Honduras versus the standards in the United States don't mesh. And so when we were certified organic, we had a disclaimer online saying that that's exactly what it was. In Honduras, you're allowed to use conventional fertilizers in the growing coffee, and that's about it. Versus the United States, there's none. For our little farm, we were struggling to keep up with every time they want to come and inspect your farm, you have to pay them. So they can just randomly decide to do it whenever they want to, up to 3 times a year. And it's hundreds of dollars every time. And it is ridiculous. The guy, he gives us a list of hotels that he is willing to stay at and restaurants that he's willing to eat at. And we have to provide him a driver. So when he shows up the farm in his little car, then we're going to have a driver with a truck drive him into the farm. He'll walk out to the farm and say, I want to dig up the soil here or here. And we have to provide a guy with a shovel to do all that for him. Then we generally have like a little spread of food out there for him to eat. And we'll take him into town at lunch, which there's a place fairly close to us. So we'll take him to town at lunch. And then we come back out to the farm. And if he wants to take leaf samples or whatever he wants to do, we have to do it for him. And then that night, we're responsible for feeding him supper and getting him to his hotel. And the next day, he'll go to another farm. So it was a pain in the butt, to say the least. A lot of the practices seemed sketchy, and so we did that for 1 year. And then we realized that some of our seals had been stolen by the group that we were in. So I was issued, I forget the exact number, but let's say 200. And then that year I had X amount of coffee. And when I went in, they said, well, we don't have enough seals. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, well, we didn't think that your farm was going to produce that much coffee, so we used some of your seals. So what that means is they went and bought conventional coffee, put my seal on it, and sold it as coffee. It didn't have my name on it, but still was my seal. And so we had to ship in 12 of our bags of coffee that year. Didn't get the organic seal, although we paid for it. So we literally asked a customer that didn't care about organics to give us the bags back after he opened them, so we could put the other bags in there. And so it's just not the way we wanted to operate. We will get certified again. I don't know if we'll be able to do it for the 2025 crop, but we are going to get certified again. But we do use organic practices on the farm. We don't use herbicides, pesticides, insecticides, things like that. But we are currently using mostly organic fertilizers. But we have, this last year, we put down a mix of like regular fertilizer. We did that in the first of the season. We're looking into getting, you didn't ask this question, but we're looking into getting the mold certified. I don't think that's a big issue in our part of the country, but our workers, we have a big selecting table, and there's light bulbs on it. And so we switch those over to UV lights. And so we check the lot for mold before we start selecting. And then a couple of the women have UV flashlights. And so we're constantly checking that. We make sure the machines are clean and power washed and sanitized with like bleach and everything at the beginning of the year and then at the end of the year. So, and everything's covered up. So it's, we do everything we can to prevent contamination, things like that. It's never been a problem with us. And there was another, yes, I am the sole owner. Well, my wife and I own it. We're the sole owners of Finca Juancito and Legacy Farms Coffee and Finca Williams. And there's going to be a new piece of property bought, and that'll be ours also. I bought my first farm in 2010 or late 2009, something like that. We started negotiations, but I actually bought it in 2010. And we've had that small farm until 2014 when we bought the big farm. And then in 2014, we actually moved the entire family to Honduras for what was supposed to be a year and a half, so that we planted the entire farm, and then we were going to go home. That 18 months ended up being 6.5 years. We sold a lot of what we owned to stay there. We built a small mill. Our mill has the capacity to process about 3 times the capacity that's on our farm. The reason we made it a little bit bigger is because we wanted to be able to process the coffee fast and get it to the drying or get it to the fermenting tanks or whatever process we want to do. We want to be able to do that fast. And the majority of the technical work was just being done by my family. My 9-year-old ran the small mill for years until we bought the big mill, and then he ran that up until last year. This year is going to be the first year that Jonathan's not coming out for harvest. Yeah, Tracy, thanks. I appreciate you saying that. And please share us with people that, are coffee people and things like that. Now, are you a coffee roaster, drinker? Do you have a storefront? Tell us a little bit about Trace. And am I saying that right, or do I pronounce the E? But yes, we are a sole proprietorship business, and so we have a small farm and a larger farm. They don't really know how big the farm is, and it is very difficult. But I know that here in Kansas, we live on 41 acres. And when we were driving that today, I mentioned to Eli about how many acres it was. And he said, there's no way that our farm is the size they say it is, just because we've got roads that go through our farm. There's walking trails. We've got rivers. We've got a waterfall. Our farm just seems massive compared to this 41 acres. But I do know the farm in Pavis is 5 acres because it was easy to measure. It's got one big dip in the middle of it, but otherwise it was fairly easy to measure. The main farm in Cerro Bueno, which if you go to Google Maps and look up on satellite, if you go to Legacy Farms Coffee, Cerro Bueno, CerroBueno, Cerro Bueno, Honduras, it'll take you to our farm. And so you'll get sort of a good view. Our farm borders that main highway that you'll see. And in the very center of the farm, there's a single building that's called the Organic Bodega. That'll give you an idea. I put it as center in the farm as I could get. That'll give you an idea of how big the farm is. The Organic Bodega was put there because I needed a big, secure building. Before I bought the farm, it takes probably 230 100-pound bags of fertilizer to fertilize the farm. We have some 90,000 coffee plants on the farm. Before that, the workers went all the way up to the main road that you see and fertilized the entire farm by walking in bags of coffee, or bags of fertilizer, 2 bags at a time. Some guys can only carry one, but the majority of them will carry 200 pounds of fertilizer in, and they were covering the entire farm with that, 3 ounces per plant before we got there. When I got there, we started building roads, and so the road that leads to that building in the center is where I store the fertilizer in, and it's very short-term storage. I don't bring it all in at one time, just for the fact that somebody would steal it if they knew that we had what right now is about 230 bags of fertilizer. I can't speak tonight. That would cost somewhere around $14,000 right now, US dollars. It's since the war in Ukraine and Russia. Russia is where we used to get our fertilizer. Our fertilizer tripled the first year. Now it's come down quite a bit, but it is still the single most expensive thing we do on the farm. And it takes 22 guys. No, it takes, yes, 22 guys, 11 days to put out that 22,000 pounds of fertilizer. It's all done by hand, and the plants get anywhere from, the babies get a half an ounce, but the bigger plants get 1, 2.5, or 4 ounces of fertilizer per coffee plant. And we also fertilize the cardamom plants, the banana plants. We have 2,500 banana plants, so we have about 500 to 600 cardamom spice plants. So all of that gets fertilized by hand. When we spray the farm, we use a mixture called Imi. It means microorganisms of the mountain. It's different things that have been cultivated, microorganisms that we grow, or however you would say it, for 30 to 60 days. And that's mixed with water and then sprayed on the plants, anywhere from 2 to 4 fertilizings per year. And that's a good little vitamin booster. We also add things to that for antifungals, and all those things are completely organic. But pretty much everything is done by hand until we get to the point where we're bringing the coffee up to have it depulped, which means have the cherry taken off of it. Oh, the other question that I get asked quite a bit, I had a guy that came in the other day, and he said, I'm a beekeeper, and he said, I really want to try your red honey processed coffee. If you look on our website, there is a section that talks about coffee processing, and it'll go more into detail about the canal washed, red honey process, and the full natural. But the red honey is when we take the cherry off and put the beans straight out onto the patio, and it dries in its own juices. And so it's red and sticky and it's sweet. And so it got the name red honey. All right, I'm sorry. There was a couple questions that popped in. Okay. Oh, you're in Iowa. Is it Trace or Tracy? Um, so many of our customers started with a Goodwill purchased popcorn popper, be it the air popper or the whirly popper. And my first batch that I roasted, or I was witness to roasted, was a coffee farmer in Honduras that had a little air popper. And he popped 2 or 3 or 4 ounces, whatever they do. He popped that right on his back porch with the most magnificent view that you've ever seen. And we all sat on the back porch. It was while I was in organic school. And there was about 30 people in my class in organic school. And one day we visited his farm, and he popped us a coffee on the back porch. But I've watched so many of my guys go from popcorn popper to a B more or to a fresh roast or something like that. And so now either Trace or Tracy, we're gonna is moved up into a fresh roast. I have the fresh roast 700 on the farm in Honduras. I personally use the Hucky 700. I mean Hucky 500T. I have a couple of those that we use for our sample roasting. I'm going to see if we can get a picture of it here. That's my roaster in the back, and we're doing some modifications to it this year. We're going to try to get it, if I can get a little more control over my heat. I'm sorry, I'm on my phone tonight, so it's a pain. We're going to modify it to where it'll hold plenty of coffee, but I need to get the heat stronger so I can go up to 30 pounds per roast. Right now, for my standard roasting, I generally put in 22 pounds of coffee, and I get 18.6 pounds out, and that gives me a 15.3 loss on humidity. So that's usually what I try to do. I think in Iowa also, they have the cottage law, if I'm not mistaken, where you can roast out of your house. And so I've got a lot of people. I talked to a woman in Alaska today that's roasting under cottage law. So that's just a great way to start. Okay, yeah, Will Young is asking about the nonprofit side of the coffee business. We have and I always get the numbers wrong, 503C or whatever that's called, nonprofit. We are changing the name this year from LF Missions to Legacy Farms Missions, and we're moving it. It was in Oklahoma, and we're going to be moving it to Kansas. So here within the next 2 months, 3 months, all the paperwork should be done on that. I met with the lawyer last week, but we have a nonprofit in Honduras. I started out by doing micro loans and things like that from the farm. Now the farm supports it. We don't have a lot of support. We've got like we have exactly $360 a month support that come in from 2 different places. That's the support for it. The beauty is, once it was built, so far we've spent $64,000 building the building and doing the land. But once that's all built, it doesn't cost that much to run it. We're looking at $1,000 a month to hire a full-time teacher to run an after-school program for like 4 hours a day. And so we're trying to hire her away from her, state teaching job. But it doesn't cost a lot to do the things. The idea of that is if we get the kids to come into after school or get them into we have a children's library, then we could get them to come into the church that's on site. But we do have a preacher that's there 2 to 3 days a week. Has church on Sunday. We have a children's library. It's mainly open on Saturday because the kids go through, are in school, and when they come home, they have chores and things like that. But we're doing an after-school program right now, but it's just 1 day a week. We have at least once a year, we have a medical and dental thing on the farm. We do have a dental chair, and I built a room for a dental clinic. So and that's going to be like $5,000 a month. That's one of my dream goals. But just so far, we haven't been able to find somebody that wanted to like really support it. But there's always hope. And so But the facility's open every day. We let people use it for the community center part, part of it. The big church building can be used for anything. This year, we're going to start doing the quinceañeros. That's the 15-year birthday party. Uh, we're going to do weddings, just any kind of event that we could try to help them with. But we still got to round up money for like chairs and tables so that we could do birthday parties and things like that. But for the most part, the coffee business supports that. The Let me scroll down. Yeah, there's a couple people that have. I saw Jared's on. He just ordered a bunch of coffee, and that Perinema you ordered, uh, man, that is a beautiful. Has a blue hue to it. It's a beautiful coffee. I'm right now tonight. I'm drinking yellow bourbon. Okay, so it's Trace. And Bill saying he started out with like a real small one and ended up with a Sona Fresco. A Sona Fresco is a more on that commercial end of a big air roaster. Jared does the Be More. There's nothing wrong with the fresh roast. The problem is me. I have burnt more coffee on a fresh roast than you've probably roasted. I I either put too many beans in and start burning the ones on the bottom. I just am not doing something right, and it takes a little more attention. I love the Be More. And I think I gave it away this last year just because I wasn't using it, and somebody gifted it to me, so I gifted it. So I hope it works for a long time. The Be More, you can pick your thing, put it in there, and it roasts the coffee, and you're done. It's a pretty simple device. And I would a lot of times I would before I had my Hucky here in the roastery in Kansas, I used the Be More just to have coffee for the house. And so when I would go in at night, I'd hit that button. I think I put in 12 ounces, and I lied to it and told it that there was 16 ounces in there. I'm trying to pick something up off the floor. Uh, and I would hit go. And so they run through the process and they cool the beans, and then the machine shuts down. So it's a perfect machine. And you guys can give me an idea. I think they're in that $400 range, but it'll roast up to a pound of coffee. There, Jared is using a Yoshan DY2. I've heard of that. Oh, it'll go to 3.5 pounds. So yeah, that's a serious roaster. Yep. Now Brian is from Left Hand Smoke. Do you still use a yep, the Weber gas grill, and he modified it. I've got a couple guys that do that. Jose over at Third Day Coffee in Seguin, Texas. He started out and he was doing mesquite wood, and then he went to pecan hulls, and he's done some crazy things with his. But then he bought a big US roaster, a nice one, and had it with a firebox put in it. My coffee roaster has a firebox, so I can pull all my gas unit out, and the firebox will go in there, and I can burn wood. It's made to burn wood, and so I can just start shoving it full of wood and roast with wood. Wow, had 5 B-mores. I went the first year we sold coffee. I delivered it, so I literally drove my NPR Isuzu box truck from here to Murfreesboro, Tennessee, to sell a guy 20 pounds of coffee. Had a brand new set of scales, and I hit kilos instead of pounds, but I was so excited I didn't notice a difference. And so he ended up getting 20 kilos of coffee instead of 20 pounds of coffee. And so this last year, a couple months ago, Eli and I drove back up, and we met in Franklin, and we tried to recreate that picture that we had from, I guess, 10 years ago or 8 years ago. And so we tried to recreate that picture where we met on the side of the road, and I sold them coffee. But he started out with 1B more and then 2B mores and then 3B mores. And I think he's in the coffee business now. I mean, he's ordering bags and bags of coffee. So he's gone a long ways from starting out with 1B more to where he's at now. And Jared, did you have 5 all at the same time? Okay. I don't remember. Eli was here. Michael was asking. I had to go get my driver's license the other day, and I brought those guys some coffee. Uh, I don't remember what it was. If you have the bag, I could I could help you. But Eli was helping me do some coffee, and I said, let's get a bunch of samples to take to the DMV. But what I'll do is I'll try to find somebody to or if you guys are anywhere near Mound Ridge, I can have a mix of sample packs made up for you. If you'll email me and let me know when you're coming, and then that way y'all can sort of you can try more of an assortment. But I was just I came by here and I grabbed some coffee real quick and then headed over to the DMV. So I don't remember what coffee I brought you. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I grew a beard. I went to Honduras back a couple months ago. I don't remember when it was exactly, and I got there and I didn't have my razor, and so I said, "Well, I'm just here 2 or 3 weeks. I'm not going to worry about it." And then I got back to the States, and I realized that I did have my razor somewhere in Honduras. I just couldn't find it, and so I didn't have a razor here. So I just sort of let it go. I I'm gonna probably sport it through this harvest, and then I'm gonna have to cut it off. I think. Yeah, if I either that or I'm gonna have to learn how to like cut it better. But it's a lot of hair on my face, and but I'm 57. I've never had a beard, so I figure I'd let it roll for a little while. And Julia hasn't said whether she likes it or doesn't like it or hates it or anything like that. So she sort of doesn't have an opinion on it. Uh, but yeah, the guys from the DMV, if somebody wants to come by one day, we'll get you guys some more coffee. Eli and I both I took Eli to get his learner's permit, and one of the folks from the DMV, I had to give my ID showing I was his dad, and she said your license is fixed to expire, and so it was going to expire the 1st of March, I guess, and I would have been in Honduras and I would have been in a mess. So that saved me a lot of heartache. Um, I hated to give up my Tennessee license was part of why I hadn't done it. Uh, we went to San Antone this year. It doesn't have anything to do with coffee, but we were speaking or doing something at a church or something, a nonprofit or something, and yeah, that's what it was. And they put us up, and I said, "Could you get us something close to San Antonio because I want to go to the Alamo?" So they put us up in a place near the Alamo. So we drove. Eli and I drove over that next day, spent a few hours at the Alamo, and so it was fun to show my driver's license is from Crockett County, which David Crockett did something there for a while, and the name of the town is Alamo, Tennessee. So I had my Alamo driver's license, and I showed some of the people at San Antonio. So I was happy about that. But I am from Alamo, Tennessee, and I've lived there most of my life until I moved to Kansas, Honduras, and so for the last 22 years, I think I've lived about 2 of them in Tennessee. The rest has been about 8 years in Honduras, and the rest of it here in Kansas. So I still got my Tennessee roots, but it was fun to get my Kansas license the other day, and met some good guys over at the DMV. Yeah, Jerry, we were trying to get back to Tennessee again. My office is still in Tennessee, but we closed it down and we used it for storage because we were only going to Honduras for 18 months. And that's been over 10 years ago. So it's time to get my stuff out of there and sell that building before we start having major trouble with it. I think we talked about the honey process. The next thing we're talking about is a lot of you guys are roasters, and so I don't know what you guys have heard, but there's like coffee shortages going on, things like that. And I don't know the people that are drinking coffee and the people that are roasting coffee. I had somebody ask me, sent me something from Alaska the other day wanting to talk about buying our coffee. and they wanted to make sure that it was organic certified and had its mold certification or something like that. I don't even know where you would go to get that. We've always done, and the FDA has always let us do our own mold control on the farm, because obviously we don't want to, I'm not going to spend the time and money to ship coffee to the United States that's moldy. So we have a pretty extensive checking process about that. But this next year, we're going to have to try and see what the process is to get certified for the 2025 crop. Julia is getting ready sometime this weekend to switch over some of our offerings. So for two more weeks, there will be green coffee on the website. After that, Julia will be in Honduras, and then we will just be doing coffee for the guys like you guys that send me a PM, and Julia will fill out your billing and stuff like that. So we will take green coffee off the website here in the 20th of January. And that's when Julia's going to be ready to head up to Honduras. I leave on Wednesday as long as the weather doesn't go too bad. So we'll have regular, but we're going to have it. We're going to switch out some coffees and offer a few different varieties on the probably by Monday they'll be on there. It's usually a pretty quick process. We were doing an inventory tomorrow to see how much coffee we still have, and then after that we'll have it for 2 weeks, and then we'll shut it down. You'll still be able to buy coffee. You just won't be able to go online and buy it. There have been a few people here lately that have put in some really big orders. And so I guess there's a buying frenzy sort of going on right now. I have to make sure that I don't run out of coffee for the roasted side and for my customers. So we've had a lot of first-time customers come in. When we use Shopify as our, I guess they call it a sales platform or something, and it tells me every time there's a note on there that it's a first-time customer. And I think within the last 45 days, we've had 25 new customers, which normally is a good thing. But I don't necessarily want new customers on the green side when we don't know how much coffee we're going to produce in 2025 because of our labor shortage in Honduras. And, the weather is the weather. You never know how that's going to affect you. But we don't really know what next year is going to look like. We lost 30% of our coffee last year. And so we want to make sure that, if something like that happens again, which we expect it to. I mean, there's less people. Right now, people are just flooding into the United States like crazy. And they're going to try. They will be for the next few weeks. And so Anna's really been worried about it. Right now, they're doing like a little first picking, and usually that takes 3 or 4 days, and Anna's on her second week. Yes, Richard, if you'll just PM me after the 20th or 22nd, Julia's coming in. So after the 20th, I think she's going to pull green coffee. So it'll still be here in the roastery, and there's still going to be a lady that's doing shipping 2 days a week. That is something different also. We did it last year. We've done it every year. But starting on the 22nd, we're only going to ship green or roasted coffee 2 days a week. So it's either going to be Monday and Thursday, I think is what it is. Those are going to be the 2 days. We might switch that to Monday and Wednesday, but it's either Monday for sure, and then it'll either be Wednesday or Thursday. So if you order something Monday after 5 o'clock, it'll get shipped Thursday. And so those are all right. How are we doing tonight?
What's going on?
Man, I should have looked at the picture before I clicked on you. What's up, man? We've been talking about you. We've been talking about that some little coffee company called Third Day Coffees Again, and how they're roasting coffee with pecans and things like that. We lost him. He's over in Texas. They're probably already getting hit by the snow. Is anybody else getting snowstorm warnings? We'll have to try. We'll have to get them to try again. That is the famous Jose. Yep, he's popping up again.
Can you hear me?
Hey, man. What's up, brother?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Are you
Okay.
guys getting snowed on?
No, but we don't want Snowmageddon again. We like our 2 weeks of, 30-degree weather and down here, and then it goes away and we're back to the 90s. That's why we live
No,
down
we've got snow warnings out. Julia and I were planning on buying a deep freeze. I don't know if if you guys have heard my deer story, but I haven't been deer hunting since I was like 14.
here.
But I got like 170-pound buck the other day. He tried to cross through my barbed wire fence and got hung up and broke his neck. And so I've got the game warden called it a unicorn deer. And I don't know how to judge a rack, but man, he's got a nice rack on him. But then he has a third antler that's 1.5 inches around in diameter. So it's a real antler. He's got a third one growing out. And he got caught in there, and I took him and I paid some a meat processing plant to process him. But they cut the head off and boiled it and then gave me the head back. So I'm going to hang it on the wall in my man cave. But it dressed out. I got 100 pounds of deer meat. I told them just to grind it all in a hamburger. So he's a pretty good sized deer.
I think Micah looked it up, and the one with that other horn,
Yeah,
it's like 1 in a million have that genetic defect.
yeah, that's what the game warden said. He said it was 1 in a million. So I got a 1 in a million deer head. If anybody wants to give me $1 million for it, I'll give you one.
I'll sell it to you.
Yeah, I forgot you were over the house the other day.
Yeah.
But no, we were talking about. I had somebody order caramel rum crunch and my yellow bourbon in the same order, and so we were talking a little bit tonight about the difference in coffee flavors and flavored coffee. So we went over that sort of on the first of the podcast, and we went into that for a few minutes, and then that led me into third days again, which is y'all do some pretty cool pecan stuff. And I drank I say I drank the last of it. You gave me some couple bags of the pecan.
Yeah.
And I had probably about 4 or 5 ounces left. And I was talking to a customer today, and so I gave them that. I didn't think I should have scratched your name off the front of it, But no, I gave him that. We were talking about coffees, and he said he didn't like flavored coffee. And I said, well, I've got a coffee that has distinctive flavors, but it's not flavored coffee,
Yeah.
And so I gave him that one. So yeah, maybe he'll order some from you. But I made a big pot of it the other day, and was serving it here in the shop. And I had your bag laying over there by it. But it's a really unique coffee. Can you tell exactly how do you make that?
So we still use a flavoring oil, but not that much. So we use about half what the manufacturer recommends, because we didn't want a coffee that was traditionally flavored with oil. And so we played with it for almost a year. And what we ended up doing, because our roaster was custom built with a little firebox on the side so we could put wood in there. And most of our coffee is roasted with wood, mesquite wood. But we wanted to do pecan. But pecan is so mild that it doesn't translate. That's why I don't like to cook with it, because it just doesn't really, you end up having to throw like some apple wood on or some cherry before you finish your meat in order for to get the flavor, because pecan's real mild. So we just decided to throw the pecans, half shelled with the meat and everything in there in the firebox, and lo and behold, man, we got this flavor that we just kept developing, and we finally figured out exactly how much pecans that we use per roast, and it's about 8 ounces of pecans for 7 pounds of coffee, 6 pounds of coffee. And so, and I tell you what, it blew up like nobody's business, because that's, people tell us all the time, well, I don't like flavored coffee. I said, yeah, I don't either. But this is all Connie and I drink now. I mean, it's, first off, it starts with a high quality Legacy Farms, coffee, and then we roast it with the pecans, and we put a little bit of oil on it to finish it off. And it's just been a game changer, for our sales. So it's and then we met the guy who owns the orchard out here. I think his grandpa bought it like in the early 40s. And so they actually have an orchard and a grove. And I don't know which one's which, but I understand that one of them is where they plant the trees in rows, and the other one is where they just grow naturally. And they have both on that farm. They have a grove and they have an orchard.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
No, I've enjoyed pecans all my life. My office that I had we had two offices, and I had one in a little town called Trenton, Tennessee. And you and I both couldn't put our arms around the trunk of that pecan tree.
Nice.
And I had an old guy that worked for my dad for 24 years. And then when my dad passed, he worked for me 4 more years before he passed. But when I built the new office building, he said, I want a front porch. That's all I care about. So I built him a big front porch on the office. He brought his rocking chair up there. And one year he got a 55-gallon drum full of pecans off that tree. Wow. And he'd sit on that office and he'd crack those pecans. And every year he'd give me 2 or 3 gallons where he had like cracked them, shelled them, and everything. And they were a soft shell, long variety of pecan. But last week I got in the mail, and it's probably 4 or 5, 6 pounds of a long pecan. She already shelled them for me. But it was my friend David who passed. It was my friend David's mom. She sent me some. So I guess she's probably in her 80s. And so I sent her some coffee a few months ago. And she said, when the pecans are ready and we got them processed, I'll send you some. So I'm going to try. I'm just going to take a small bag with me. And if they pass through customs, I'll have Julia do the rest. And we're going to make some pecan pies in Honduras. And so I want to have some kind of party at the end of the harvest this year. And that's so, because, we are super nervous about harvest this year. I've got like something going on with my hair. I'm not sure what it is. I should wash it every once in a while, I think.
If you let it grow, it just sort of drapes down, and then, it just hangs there. So I don't know. It's
well, I think I'm going to let it grow, and then I'm going to do that comb back thing where I cover the back of my house. But now, do you guys do a full natural?
We have in the past. We have got the natural from you before.
Okay.
And the flavors are just so different with all the coffees. It's crazy. People who've never roasted or never had quality coffee, you can't really describe it to them, because most people know Starbarfs or, a flu of the other places. I got to be careful because they'll probably sue me, but
let them bring it on.
Yeah.
The best PR we can get.
I'm gonna say, they can come at me. They can't get blood out of a turnip. So
that's right. It can't get much juice out of this turnip.
My name will be on the front page.
Eli and I have been studying the book of Job. He's been getting up early every morning and coming out here with me, and we've been studying the book of Job. And I said, man, there's days I feel like him. And that blood out of the turnip just was right up my alley.
Yeah, we're just lucky to have wives that love us, man, because I don't think Job's wife loved him very much.
I heard a joke today about there's a Christian comedian. He was saying something about Job. They took his, killed. They started out with his camels and then set his sheep on fire and killed his kids and servants and everybody. And he said, but he didn't come after his wife. And the guy's talking to the devil and said, why didn't you come after the wife? He's like, that was just as bad as burning his sheep, was not killing his wife. Because, in the end, she was questioning, why don't you just turn your back on God? So,
why don't you just curse him and die?
And so a good fire wouldn't have hurt her, that situation. Put her out there with the sheep.
I said, well, they had a good barbecue out of the sheep anyway. But you think about it, and I've gone through that. When we were in Tennessee, I was my finances were a lot better than they were since I bought the coffee farm. But I can tell you, man, there's two jobs I've had that I love in my life, and one when I had the handgun school. And I love teaching handguns. I love teaching the combat side of it. But the coffee is such an interesting business and but it's not, the handguns I made a lot of money at. And you got to buy guns and write them off. But the coffee business, man, is bleeding me dry. And somebody was asking about our support. And I said, well, I got buddies that help me and some, people that help me. I said, but we got $360 a month that comes in, 200 from a church and 160 from a guy. And then we got some guys like Brian and Ben. I forget what the name their coffee company closed, but they were sending a monthly thing, and there's a couple guys that send like $50 a month, pretty regular. But that runs the entire project. We make the project according to how much money we had. And so far we spent $64,000 building it. But, my ultimate goal, if I had everything I wanted tomorrow, I only need $7,500 a month to have a full dental clinic running 5 days a week. And, the library, the after school program, all of that could be done for that amount of money. It sounds like a lot, but it's for what you're going to get. It would cost $100,000 a month to get that much dental care.
I have a question. So one of the things that my customers have been asking is about the price of coffee. People are like, hey, what's going on with coffee? What's going on with coffee? Can you talk a little bit about what's going to happen and what you think, and give me a hard percentage of what you think the increase is going to look like? Or a semi-hard.
Well,
It's not going to be perfect, but.
Well, I look at the market every once in a while. I think right now it's at 280. Is that right? And last year, this time, coffee's weird. The Robusta price has rotated. It went from being higher last year to lower this year, or it's just it didn't go up like everything else went up. The Arabica market, I want to say it was at 240 last year. It's already up to 280 or something like that right now. But that's again for commodity coffee.
Right.
And what Jose and I are talking about is specialty grade. So you're talking about a mid 70 coffee versus everything 80 and above, which is really hard to do. I have so many farmers that come to me in Honduras that bring me coffee, and we look at it and it looks good, and then we send it and have it cupped and it's a 72, 73. It's difficult to get into that specialty grade. It's difficult to do that, and it's difficult to maintain it. I don't know. I think, Brazil had weather was their big issue. In Honduras, labor is our big issue. If you guys will go back to sometime around May or July on my Instagram page, you'll see a picture of me and Santos looking under some coffee trees. And there's like hundreds of little tiny coffee plants growing. And the reason that is because that coffee fell off the vine and rotted on the ground. It's because we didn't have anybody to pick it. 5 years ago, I've got my list on my desk in Honduras. I'll try to post it. But 5 years ago, there was a day that we had 197 people picking coffee. Last year, the biggest day we had was 75.
Wow.
And they're just gone. And Pedro's talking about how many immigration buses are coming by. They call them immigration buses. But to me, they look exactly like the World Health Organization buses. They have no markings on them, and they have funny license plates on them. But those buses are taking people free of charge to the United States. And I don't care who you voted for, what color flag you fly. I don't care what your religion is. That's the God's honest truth right there. There's some entity busing people by my house in Honduras daily, 8 to 12 buses a day, and bringing people from all walks of life. Because the little town where we're at, Planis is that wide spot in the road that has a gas station before you get to my house.
Yeah.
And they've got a little coffee shop and restaurant right there before you get to my house. that's where those buses are allowed to stop, and the people can get off and go to the bathroom. If they leave that general area, they're arrested and put in jail because they're illegal in Honduras. And so we get to see those people. I personally have not seen them. I'm listening to what Santos, Bahidio, Pedro, those guys are telling me. Hannah, they're telling me what these people look like, how they're wearing sheets and things like that. She's telling me, and I'm guessing some of the countries that they might be coming from. But we have a crazy shortage. Anna said they're doing the December picking, which in December they usually pick for about 5 days. And I'll get a group of guys that just sort of run through the farm and pull off whatever's red. And then they'll dry that coffee on the farm, and that'll be the coffee I drink, because it's usually not a high cupping coffee, but it's still good. And she said they've been picking for 3 weeks now, just trying to find enough people. And there was, I think, 12 people on the list, and that's all they could find. And that's basically all the people that work for me, And so they're not able. It's so widespread. It's so, you don't understand. It's not just one guy coming to the United States. So many of these guys aren't, once they get here, they're not sending the money back home. And so then the wife has to go to work. And that means when the wife has to go to work, then that means the oldest daughter has to stay home and take care of the kids. We've got families that no longer work because the guys are sending that amount of money home, and now they don't have to work. So we've got 20-year-old guys that are living right across from the farm that won't work because they're sitting around with their new Wi-Fi that's been installed with their smartphones and their Nike shoes, and they don't have to work anymore. Because you think how that affects a country that's that poor. They actually had to build a garage on their house, and they have 3 trucks now, where always before they walked everywhere they went. So now they've got 2 sons in the U.S. that are sending money back. And so one of them is a Rubicon. One of the cars that's parked in that house where people for generations have walked everywhere they went. Now they have a Rubicon parked in their front yard.
Wow.
I don't want a Rubicon. But and so you don't think about how much this immigration here in the United States affects these countries, because I've already got friends. Herbert's like, I don't even know if I'll pick my coffee this year. Wow. And so there's a couple of farmers that just said, I'm going to fertilize one time. For us, I told them, I said, that back lot of Catuí, that yellow Catuí, I said, don't fertilize it. It costs too much to fertilize it. The people don't like to pick on the inclines. So the Icatu, the Catuí, we won't even pick that because it takes too long to fertilize. It's too expensive to fertilize it. The people don't like to pick it because it's on a steep incline. So that coffee, whatever it grows, will just sit there. We won't even try. If somebody wants to pick it, I'll give it to them. But there's so many different factors that are negative that are going to affect the coffee prices this year, because they're not just taking workers from Honduras. They're taking them from all the countries. And a lot of those countries are coffee producing countries. They grow coffee in Venezuela and Colombia and everywhere in Central America and Panama. The people are coming from all these different areas. So it's a huge thing that we don't really realize. That's really being affected, not just the bad weather and bad growing conditions in Brazil this year. Which Brazil, as far as countries go, took the biggest hit on coffee. But I've Googled it and I AI'd it, and the consensus is it's a mix of those things. But it just says labor issues. It doesn't go into detail what they are, but that's my opinion of what I think they are. So for us, I don't know what we'll do this year. We've already I've already upped the price on what we're going to pay 20%. We already paid more than any of the other farms, and so we're going to go 20% more than that this year. And we'll start paying. They're picking next week, and so when I get there on Wednesday, Thursday, I'm going to look at how many people we got, what they're picking, look at all the things and what they're picking, and I'll probably go ahead and up the pay again. because a lot of the times my guys are wanting to get, that's a treat for them to pick coffee because every day they're getting paid by the day. And so they can pick way more coffee than, that daily wage would be. So right now those guys are, picking as hard as they can, as much as they can. But right now, all that coffee is going straight to Herbert's Mill. Yeah, I think we went to Herbert's Mill when we were there.
Yeah, I
And
think
so I'm buying another laboratory grade industrial moisture tester this year. And they're like $1,800. So right now, all the coffee that they're picking, we're just sending that straight over to him, and that's going toward my coffee thing. So it's nice because they're spot on, and I really like it. And I've got 3 of the Coffee Pro. No, what is it called? Agtronics Coffee Pro.
Yeah, that's all I
humidity tester. Yeah, that's what you got, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've got 3 of those, and so used to we had to take them to Herbert's to get them calibrated every couple of days, and so now we're able to calibrate them ourselves with that tester because it's spot on every time. We were just sitting there drinking coffee one night and just kept running it over and over and over again. It was the same over and over and over. But this year we're gonna. Jonathan's got a little bit extra money. Eli's got $3,000 in his savings, and we're going to buy some coffee from some other farms this year. But it's not going to be little farms like Pedro, because unless I can find more people that want to process coffee than want to pick. But if we can find people that will that will live out on the new farm and dry the coffee out there in Llano, which I don't think we had Llano when you and Connie were here.
No, I've just seen pictures of it.
And so we dry the coffee there. So if I can get Pedro and another guy to move out there till March and dry the coffee, that's what the new coffee tester is for him to have it out there. We're moving a metal building out there for him to be able to store coffee. He doesn't like to sleep inside. He sleeps outside in a hammock. But we're hoping that if we can get all that done, then I can buy more coffee from the little guys. But otherwise, we're going to be buying coffee from some of these bigger farmers. And that's what I'm doing on Sunday. I'm going to meet next Sunday. I'll meet with some farmers that I was in the coffee competition with last year and try to buy varieties that we've never had before. And so, but this year, I mean, Santos has spent a lot of time on his farm. So I'm hoping this year he has a really big crop. I was surprised that he only had 200 pounds, but he said that he cut down some of the Catuí that I gave him and replanted it with the Perinema. The Perinema is just a really nice coffee. I think it's an 84-point coffee this year, but it's got some different flavors. And I need to find. I don't have his cupping. He never gave it to me, but we did get his coffee cupped. So as soon as I can get that from him, I'll email that to you so you get a copy of that.
And just so, I mean, just for my customers, because I just shared this to my customers. But for those of you who, I say this all the time, when you're talking about specialty coffee, it's not like regular coffee. A lot of these big box name, these big companies, right, that you buy coffee from, they sell you coffee that they call premium or gourmet or all these other little terms that they use. But what Ashley's talking about is a piece of paper where they physically cup the coffee and score it. And it has to score a minimum of 80 to be considered specialty coffee. All our coffee is specialty coffee, except for like our Robusta, because I get that from a third-party supplier. Because right now, I mean, Ashley's starting to grow some, so we'll see how that's gonna turn out. But I go through quite a bit of Robusta because I sell a lot of espresso, which I make the Robusta with, and I also sell one of our popular coffees is a 60-40. It's 40% Robusta and it's 60% Legacy Farms coffee. And I roast it all light. So it's hard on your grinder, but it's super high caffeine. And so, everybody that it smells like peanut butter when it's in the bag. But it's just, I mean, I personally, and I'm like you, I'll drink coffee at 10 o'clock at night. I don't care. And I'll sleep like a baby. I won't drink our high caffeine coffee after lunch because I won't sleep. And so it's really worked out for us. But other than that, the rest of our coffee is specialty coffee, and it comes with documentation. So if somebody's trying to sell you coffee and they're trying to tell you that it's gourmet or it's this or that, ask them for the score paper. You ask them for the score sheets. And if they don't have paperwork with it, it's just coffee that didn't make the cut.
Well, and a lot of things people don't. Somebody was asking me if my coffee was organic, and I had somebody a couple weeks ago say, "Well, I buy the organic coffee from Aldi's." Aldi's is like a little store. I don't know if they have in Texas or not, but they said I buy that, and I said, "Well, it's like what, $6 for a 12-ounce bag, or $8 for a 12-ounce bag?" And they're like, "Yeah, something like that." But it's certified organic coffee. Well, in the process of specialty grade coffee, it's hand selected. So all of the defects, all of the coffee that's like got insect damage, that's broken in half, that's black, that's whatever, it's something you couldn't even stand to drink, but it is still organic. So organic has nothing to do with the quality of the coffee itself. It's just that we didn't spray toxins on it. But it could still be crappy coffee and be organic. But yeah, the gourmet, I don't know. Let me make a note. I'm gonna look up, because gourmet and premium just means it's the best I have, but it's not a standard, and I'm pretty sure gourmet is not a standard either. There's no definition as to what quality or what point system it goes by. Oh, can you stand up and let us see your shirt? God Country Coffee.
In that order.
And and because Jose, and it's Jose, Jose. There's like a little somebody's making comments. But his coffee company is Third Day Coffee Seguin, right? And that's in Seguin, Texas. Somebody was making a comment on your shirt.
I can probably look at your podcast right here, and I can put it right there.
Now, Mike, we don't do we had some Typica on the farm, but it is really temperamental. And there's a leaf rust disease. It's a fungus called Leroya. In English, they would call it leaf rust disease. And the Typicas are really susceptible to that. And the Typica variety that we had on our farm grew about 14 feet tall. I still have 3 of them on the farm. If I think about it this year, remind me in about a month, and I'll try to pick you some, and I'll have them dry it in the office. But let me make sure. I think that was Mike. Yeah, Mike Mathis is asking that question. Mike, if you'll keep on me, I'll get you some Typica picked, and then I'll dry some for seed, and you can plant them in your house, or if you want to drink it, I'll dry some to drink. So you remind me in about a couple weeks, and I'll try my best to get them to go pick those 3 or 4 trees that are out there. But they grew so tall. And we organized our farm to each lot is a specific thing. And just from the history of Typica, I like it as a coffee. It's a nice floral citrusy coffee, but it wasn't something that when I first started planting, that I thought I had enough sophistication to actually grow. And we were looking at coffees that got away from the leaf rust disease. And so our Marciesa, our Perinema, those are resistant to Leroya. Yeah, it's a very good coffee. But for whatever reason, it's like, Eli said to me the other day, why couldn't God made ice cream good for you? And then when you go to McDonald's, you can get a Happy Meal or you get a cheeseburger for 99 cents. But if you want a salad, it's $12, And so it's the same thing. My yellow Bourbon, There was one year I had 300 pounds of yellow bourbon. Last year on the exact same field, I had 87 pounds. And so they ebb and flow, but last year I had almost nothing on that crop. One year it was an 89-point coffee. This year it's an 84-point coffee. It went from being, I think it was floral aromas and lemonade as one of the primary notes, and being 89 points, which is the best we've ever had, to this year it was 84. But it is just a really smooth, low acid coffee this year. It's just been a really nice coffee, and I've been drinking it every day for the last week. And usually I rotate and I drink 2 or 3 different coffees a day. And I've just been drinking the yellow bourbon. It only scored, it might have been an 85, but it's just got light citrus and caramel base. And so I wouldn't thought those 2 flavors would work together, but they did. But every year, I mean, especially you guys that have ordered our coffee over and over again, when you're ordering the lots that are washed, those are all those washed lots that you're ordering, unless it's got a P or something like that in front of it. Those are all Lempira. They're all coming from the same field. And then we're drying them on the same patio, the same way they're processed. And they come up with completely different notes every year. Every one of my Marseillaises is just off the scale different. I've got 4 lots and they're all completely different. So God just thinks it's funny. He's like, we're going to give you 0 consistency in your life this year. And so we had 82 different lots of coffee, and we had to combine, we were able to combine it down to like 16 different ones. And that's how different everything was. So and that might sound like a lot, but it's not. It would be nice if I could have 4 or 5 lots of coffee, but it's crazy. I have 16 different Lempiras this year, that were combined. And the way you combine a coffee is the coffees can only be combined if they share 2 of the same, of 2 out of 3 of the same flavor profile. And they have to be within a half a point of each other. That's not a law. That's just our stipulation. That's how we do it. If one of the main cupping notes on one of the smaller groups of coffee that you were going to mix together was like citrus or floral, you wouldn't mix it, because then the chocolate caramels will dominate that. And if you got 20 bags with the dominant chocolate and caramel, and you've got 5 or 6 bags of citrus or fruit, the chocolate's going to dominate that every time. So then you got to separate that lot. I'm definitely not complaining, because the uniqueness of the coffee is crazy good, but it's definitely different. Oh, and Mike, if you're talking about something different this year, the 2025 crop, I'm going to have some geisha, and I've never offered the geisha online before, but I'll have geisha online this year. And I've never in the past put holds on something, but just let me know that you want some geisha, and I'll try to put it in my main harvest book. I'll put your name down by it when we start actually picking.
I really do need to try some other stuff. We're pretty. We haven't, even though we've grown so much in a short period of time, we still haven't like I'm pretty, because I think with the mesquite and all that stuff. I don't know that it would mask some of the notes of some of the Bourbon or some of the other stuff that we're doing. And I just need to, let's face it, I need a shop that's 3 times the size of the one I got, to be able to be carrying all different kinds of coffee. And I need another roaster, to be able to do some stuff that's not fire roasted. Our machine's a propane machine, kind of like Ashley's, but it just has a little firebox where we add wood. And I can roast without the wood. I've done that before. But there was some, I guess, we got last year from Santos. It was a small bag inside the other bags. And somehow they I guess some of those, what was that spice that you have also, the really minty.
The cardamom.
Yeah, the cardamom. Some of that got into the coffee, and it got all mixed up. And
really,
yeah, I roasted it like that. I liked it.
Well, in Honduras they mix the cardamom with the coffee, but
they?
just because it's a very powerful smell. I hate some got mixed up. I'm not sure how that happened. But
It was
Anna's
a
getting
small
better
bag.
every year.
Yeah, it was a really small bag because I think he had like there was different bags in that one bag that he sent last year. It had like 3 or 4 different sub bags inside it, and it was just pretty amazing. So I mean, it's we're coffee people are weird. Like I know you'll sit in your shop and roast something that you might not sell, but you like that you drink.
Yeah.
And I've got some of that stuff that I don't share with other people because
Well, the Mario Hipe is something that I don't generally sell, and I've got about 80 plants right below my deck on the back of the house, and they call that my garden. And so technically it's lot a zone 11 on the farm, but it's just a small lot. I cut down a field that had 3,500 Mario Hipe plants in it, and I transplanted about 100 of them, and 80 of them survived. And so I've just consider that my personal garden. And some of the guys here, I've sent them the Mario Hipe, but it's a good coffee, and it's actually what I won 4th place with last year in Marcala. I entered my Mario Hipe, and but yeah, it's there's some coffees like the Geisha. I drank it all last year, and I gave some away to a couple people. But I'm doing an inventory tomorrow. If I find my Mario Hipe and my Geisha, because those are like real small bags and they have to go inside of a big one. So when I'm doing my inventory tomorrow and Sunday, if I find them, I'll post about it and sort of see if somebody wants any of them. Hey, Jared, if you're still online, have I sent you a coffee cup before? You said something about a coffee cup. I would love to have a coffee cup. And I think you just put in an order, didn't you? I thought I saw you popped up on there. Yeah. Good Lord, you ordered a crap load of coffee. Yeah, if I haven't given you a coffee cup before, let me know and I'll put one in this next order, because that's going to be at least 4 boxes of coffee headed your way. So we got some new coffee cups in a couple weeks ago. But I gave you one the other day, didn't I, Jose?
Yep.
Coffee cup. Yeah, Eli did those all by himself.
Yeah, I really like that. I like the look of it.
Yeah, it keeps it a little warmer than the other one. I like the look of the other one, but the thing I didn't like is it didn't keep it warm. This funny little thing here, the mate to it broke. I bought it every year in Honduras. I buy a couple of sets of coffee cups.
Is that the one Connie broke?
No, I forgot about that. No, that was a family heirloom that my great grandmother made, and that's the one that she broke. I don't know how many times I've told the story of your wife and picking up a hitchhiker. I've told that to churches, nonprofits. I've told that to all over the place. That was one of the funniest things I think I ever did.
I don't know that I've ever seen her eyes that wide. Especially when you asked her to move some of that stuff over. I mean, her eyes were like,
yeah,
okay.
Scooch on over. We're picking up Pedro.
And
I could only imagine. Yeah.
The story recently.
I mean, she's never been there. We were on the way back from the airport. I mean, she had just gotten to Honduras.
We had just got there. And it was funny because some lady that was on the airplane that was sitting next to Connie, basically half in Connie's seat, because she was a large lady. And she was on the phone before the plane took off. And real loud, talking to whoever she's talking. Well, they tell everybody to secure your phones and do all that airplane mode stuff. And she's just talking away. And the plane takes off and she's still talking. And finally, the lady in front of Connie stood up and turned around and scolded her. And so
good night, Mr. Richard.
Yeah, Connie was already like, oh man, what are we getting into? And then we're gonna pick up hitchhikers, and it was awesome. So
last year I was flying in, and the closer we got, when we landed in Houston, got on the plane, it was cold when I got off the plane, and so that and I had a jacket inside my backpack, so I was putting my jacket on, but it was cold on the plane. because the plane had just come from Wichita and we're turning around coming back. So it was cold. And this lady had on this big flamboyant jacket and she had a scarf she was wrapping around and she was just all on top of me. But she was like warm. And so I'm like, well, I'm just, she was like a really warm lady. I'm like, I'll just roll with it. At least half of me is warm. I said, I'll snuggle. She'll let me. But
Yeah, we ended up changing our tickets to first class the rest of that trip because, you know, that I mean, she was a pretty imposing lady. It was pretty funny, and you know, but it happens. I mean, you know, wasn't a big
yeah,
deal.
yeah, it's just part of it. I try not to ever get that. I've learned my seats now, you know, and one year I flew and I got row 14, which just has 2 seats. But then dang it, it's by the emergency door. That's why it only has 2 seats. And then Eli wasn't 18, so then they moved us, and so then he got stuck in a middle seat. But he watches movies, and if I'm on one side or the other, I like the window seat. I'm gonna pee the second they start loading. I'm gonna go pee because I'm not gonna pee on the plane, you know. And I'm gonna get in my seat and I'm gonna snuggle up to that window and I am going to sleep. And I'll sleep the whole flight. And then Eli's just gonna watch a movie, so I'll put him in the middle seat. But I mean, this last year, he was like, "No, I'd rather have a window seat," and so he doesn't have to sit by me anymore. You know, he just sort of does his own thing, and so. But yeah, on the way back, I don't have a lot of points, but we're definitely sending Julia. She'll come back on March the 5th, and so we'll get her upgraded to first class, and then Eli and I'm going to change our ticket to where we have a long layover in Houston, and we're going to the United Club. My credit card gives me 2 passes every year. And so United Club's got a coffee machine, espresso machine, all kinds of different food and drinks, and it's all free.
That's cool.
You can get little tiny rooms and set up, you know, and watch movies or do your business, whatever. But we went to it one time last year, and we didn't know. We're a bunch of little rednecks going in there because we went and got Chick-fil-A, and they wouldn't let us in, you know. And so we sat on the steps out in front of United Club eating our Chick-fil-A, and then we go in, and everything's free. They got donuts and bananas and apples, and you know, and Eli's drinking all the like 9 different hot chocolates, and, you know. So yeah, we look like a bunch of hicks in there, but. And there's all these billionaires wearing torn jeans, you know, making $1 million deals. But
hey, one of these days we're gonna run into that one guy that wants to spend, you know, $5 million on coffee. So
yeah, that's what we're looking for.
It's gonna happen.
Well, right now, if I could get if I could find a fat cat that wanted to roll the nonprofit, I really want to get a dental clinic going. So that's going to be my dream job, and I'm hoping when I'm 65, I can sort of start spending a big chunks of time down there, and so that's a big goal of mine. I love the dental part of it. You see so many people down there missing teeth and things like that.
Yeah,
and I think that would be one of the biggest blessings that they could, that they could do, because I think it's like $4 to pull a tooth, you know, and it's about 12 to fill one. So, you know, that if for not a lot of money, you could fix a lot of these teeth. And I've got a pretty good dentist down there that's willing to work for free if I'll just pay the expenses, and she'll do that 2 days a month. So that's my first goal, is to get that part going. But yeah, it's coming along slow. But well, I said it was going to be a 45-minute podcast. We're into it for an hour and a half. But I had one of my biggest viewings tonight, and so Julia sent out an email. So I think we're going to start hitting people once a month with the email. But we're going to be more diligent about Tuesday nights at 7:30 doing the podcast, and try to get back in the scheme of things. We'll have to do a few of them from the we've got Wi-Fi now up to the beneficio where we pulp the coffee.
Yeah.
So we'll be able to do some podcasts no matter what the weather is and no matter what's going on. We'll do probably be a 20-minute podcast, but we're going to try to do some live podcasts while they're actually working and letting them see up close, and maybe even speaking to some of the people. But no, and thanks. It's always great having. It's amazing having you come on, and and then Jared's going to send me a coffee cup, and I'm going to get him a couple of cups coming his way.
Nice.
And so yeah, it was great having you on the little show tonight. And I'll tell Eli. Eli's in there probably watching stupid YouTube videos, and he missed being on with you tonight. So I have to tell him about that. So.
Well,
But man, thanks for being on. We're going to wrap it up. But I'm praying for you as always, Jose. So if you need anything, holler. We'll do the best we can, man. But I'm hoping that I can get you up to the farm again pretty soon.
Yeah, well, we're going to go to New Zealand in February to go meet our second grandson, and Danielle is naming him after me, and one of that's what I said, but she's using my middle name, so his name's going to be Robert Edward Maxton, and I said I'm going to call him Remy, man. He's going to be REM, and people our generation will get that, but we're so excited about that, and Mike has been asking too. So I said, listen, this year you probably need to get your passport because we're going to go see Ashley on the farm. And
and like he's pretty deep into a church, and you guys come up, we're going to make it a mission trip. So it'd be completely valid for him to raise some money. And I'll donate him some green coffee if you'll let him use your roaster. I'll donate some green coffee in the bags. And then he can sell coffee, and he sells 100 pounds of coffee. He'll have his trip paid for.
Yep.
Just tell him it's got to be new customers.
Yeah.
But if he's
going to a new church in New Braunfels. He's not going
to now
anymore. He's going to a new church in New Braunfels now.
That'd be perfect, man.
Yeah, and we were talking about it tonight at dinner. But he's got a different audience, and they're kind of these kind of people. So
yeah.
Not a bad thing.
Yeah, I'd get him a really nice church shirt with your logo on it. And then
yeah, he's got a bunch. He's got everything. That kid's got the key to my house. He's got the key to my vehicle. He's got the key to my gun safe.
Oh, does he? Oh, I'm looking for one of his brothers. If they ever want to move to Kansas, man, just send them my way. Right now, I'm looking for somebody to run the farm.
He only got 8 of them.
Santos is. I've got a guy I want to talk to as soon as I can get to Hunter. As soon as I can get to Tegucigalpa, I'm going to go up and talk to him, and just really put the bug in his ear to maybe come to work for us and sort of run things. He could drive a big truck. He's got mechanic skills, and so that's what we're hoping. And then next year, my goal would be to come up for the first 3 weeks of harvest, then come back here for 3 weeks, and then go up for about another 5 or 6 weeks and finish harvest and start selecting. So, if you, Jared, if you've got a coffee cup, Julia is going to leave on the 20th, but I'll get your coffee. Will be, I don't know if I can get it in the mail tomorrow because I don't have any Perry name in the building, but it'll be in the mail for sure on Monday. And I've already made a note and put it in line to get you a coffee cup. And if you need a burlap or something like that, let me know too. And I'll try to get you the bag of burlap that goes to the coffee that you bought. So yeah, send me a PM tomorrow and let me know if you need burlap or something to go with your order. But no, if he's wanting to come up, Jose, I will, we'll donate some coffee and stuff and help him do some fundraising where he can get 100% of the profits when he sells it. Yeah. And that'll, have you got a stamp or stickers? I'll give him the blank bags that go with the coffee.
Yeah, I got everything that he needs to.
Well, I've got about 500 bags. They're 12-ounce bags, and they're the biodegradable bags. Okay. And my sealer melts them, so I have to put a piece of paper over it, flatten it, and then run it through the sealer with the foot sealer. And so I'll donate him a bunch of bags, and we'll get him enough coffee to pay for his trip. And once he gets there, he won't have to really, he won't need any money. Yeah. We just help him with this, he can sell 60, 70 bags of coffee and he'll have his trip paid for.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, and I'll throw in a couple of ounces of flavoring. So if he wants to do some Jamaica Me Crazy or something like that, then, we'll help him get down there. But yeah, once he
Yeah.
gets involved
I'm
in
looking
that
forward
church,
to planning our
they'll
next-
probably help quite a bit. A lot of churches will pay. Go ahead.
I said we're definitely planning. I mean, Connie's been talking about it, but we keep joking. We got all these irons in the fire, and I'm like, we just got to get to New Zealand first, and after we get to that baby, and after that, then we can start, getting the rest of the year and the first part of next year planned out. So
yeah. No, it's tough. It's tough to get everything done. I missed my last 2 trips to Honduras because I was busy here, and then now my phone's disconnected. We use those chips in Honduras, so now they've disconnected my phone, and so I've got business cards in Honduras and literature with my telephone number on it that I've had for years, and now I lost that phone number. So I'll spend part of a day trying to see if I can get that new number reissued to me. But I'll probably have to make a 3-hour drive to Tegus to get it done. But we'll see. We'll see how it works out. But yeah, it's been a busy year. So it's and I mean it's picking up a little bit, but I hope the coffee prices are going to be fairly stable. I'm hoping it's not as bad as everybody thinks, but it is what it is, and we'll make the best of it. Well, man, I got to get in there. My first class starts at 5:45 in the morning. And
all right, man. Good talking to you.
Thanks a lot, man. We'll see you guys later. Thanks for everybody that's on the show. Thanks for all the great questions. And we'll be online again next Tuesday night. It'll be a quick one because I got a Wednesday morning flight, but we'll do another podcast on Tuesday night. Thanks everybody for coming, and you guys have a great week.
Have a good one, man. See ya.
You too, man. Have a great one.
All right, you too.